TOEFL Essentials versus TOEFL iBT, the listening section. So if you're watching this video, you probably are thinking about taking the Essentials test, or you have to take the iBT test, and you're not sure which one is better for you, what are the similarities and the differences. So we're going to talk about that right now. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to expect in the iBT listening and the Essentials listening, and we'll also say which one is easier as well. So really quick rundown of what we're going to do is that we're going to do a walkthrough of the iBT listening, walkthrough of the Essentials listening, so basically talk about the question types, and we'll review both the question types for each test. And then we'll look at examples of the new TOEFL Essentials question types. There's a couple of new ones. And then talk about which tests you should take. Now, some people might be wondering if your school or institution takes the Essentials test. The answer is, I don't know. Every school is different. Ask Uncle Google. He will know more than I do about your particular school. Here, we're going to talk about the Essentials test and the iBT and what they look like. All right, so let's get into it right now. So the iBT, first of all, has two parts. There's 5 passages in the listening section, and there's 28 questions in total, 2 conversations and 3 lectures. Looks something like this. You'll see a picture. The listening will start to play, and you have to take notes. You don't see the questions until after the listening. And then the questions come up one at a time. And it's the same for lectures. They're pretty long lectures, about 5 minutes long. They have just a word that's kind of difficult. And the question will play, and you have to take notes while you listen. And questions come up one at a time. So it's very similar. Most of the question types in the passages, couple conversations, couple lectures. Couple other things about the iBT is that there's 28 academic English questions. So all of the questions are about academic English. The conversations ask you some things that are more general, but for the most part, it's all academic. There's 8 different question types, and it's not adaptive. Adaptive means that the test changes based on your level. So there's some tests, like the Essentials test, which we'll talk about, that when you start to take the test, the level's the same for everybody. But as you answer the questions, if you're getting them correct or incorrect, the test will change. It'll get easier or more difficult. So that's adaptive. All right, now let's talk about the Essentials test. So in the listening section, there's 2 parts, same as iBT, but there's 18 passages, so a lot more passages, and about the same number of questions, 30 questions. So there's a lot more passages, so that sounds a little scary, but it's a lot easier. There's 14 conversations instead of 2, but they're all less than 30 seconds long. There's 2 campus announcements, which are again about 30 seconds. And there's 2 lectures, which are about 90 seconds. So as you can see, the length of the passages are much shorter in the Essentials test, which is actually really important because it's hard to listen for 5 minutes straight to anybody. If you listen to me for 5 minutes straight, congratulations. It's not an easy thing to do, to listen to somebody for 5 minutes straight. All right, so this is what the Essentials test looks like. This is a pretty simple thing. This is considered a passage, but really it's just a question. The person will ask a question, and the question might be something like, who's your favorite singer? And then you have to pick the best answer. There's 10 of these. Really, really simple. There's a conversation, like, are you going to go to the barbecue? Yeah, I'm going to go. Do you want to bring anything? No. Okay, see you on Sunday. Bye. Maybe not exactly like that, but something pretty similar. It's very short, less than 30 seconds, and it's about something general. And again, it's followed by a couple questions, 2 questions after each conversation. Then there's an announcement. This announcement is about 30, 45 seconds, something like that. And after the announcement, you have a couple questions. Also 2 questions, I believe. I'll double check that. The most difficult part of the Essentials test is the podcast. A podcast is just a lecture. Maybe they want to be more hip and cool and say, hey, it's a podcast. It's not a lecture, which is fine, but it's the same exact thing. It's 90 seconds of somebody speaking about an academic topic. And then after they finish speaking, you have 4 questions, and this lovely lady will be there next to the questions, or man. By the way, I did not choose this animation. This is the exact animation on the Essentials test. If I were making this, I would choose something slightly more appealing. Anyway, so, okay. Now, there are 30 questions. 18 of them are general English questions, and 12 of them are academic English questions. So you have a lot more questions that are general and basic. There are, to my count, 5 different question types. This is me talking, not ETS. I'll explain what these question types are in a bit. And this test is adaptive. It changes based on your answers, especially this section, the listening section. Look, I know you guys want to do something else besides study for the TOEFL. You want to get your score as quickly and as easily as possible. So check out tstprep.com. We have everything to help you do that. For example, we designed the TOEFL emergency course, which is specifically for students who want to study in just a few days. There's just 5 hours of lectures and a bunch of practice as well, so you can prepare very quickly. But we also have something called the Score Builder program, which is for students who need more time to build their score. And the nice thing about having one of these programs, or even having classes or whatever you want for TOEFL, is that everything is done for you. So when I log in and I get my course or whatever I get my practice tests here. I have activities that I can do every day here. I have practice questions here that I can easily access, and my courses are right here as well. So everything is set up for you. So if you want to finish your TOEFL as fast as possible, check out tstprep.com. We have everything you need. Okay, let's do just a quick review of what we just learned about the Essentials test. So there's 5 passages for one part. There's 5 passages followed by a single question. Looks like this. So you'll see 5 of these. Simple question, then you choose the best response. And then after that, you'll listen to conversations. There'll be 2 conversations, less than 30 seconds, followed by 2 questions. And then after that, you'll hear an announcement. There'll just be one announcement. It'll be about 30 seconds, and it's followed by 2 questions. Looks something like this. And then finally, you have to listen to an academic talk or podcast, and that's about 90 seconds, and you have 4 questions after. Looks something like this. And again, it will be in 2 parts, so they'll repeat this same structure again in the second part. That's the Essentials test for the listening section. All right, so something to keep in mind is that there's a large variety of questions and passages on the TOEFL Essentials test, but the content is easier than the TOEFL iBT. So again, the passages are really short. There's only a few questions after each one, only 1 or 2, besides the last passage. So that makes it a lot easier than the iBT. The iBT, you have to listen to lectures for like 5 minutes. You have to listen to conversations for 3 or 4 minutes. That's a long time, and you have to take a lot of notes. The Essentials content is much easier, in my opinion, than the iBT, just because of the length of the passages and the type of questions you get asked after. Okay, now let's talk about question types a little bit. You don't have to worry too much about these question types necessarily, especially for the Essentials test. I have another video where I talk about listening question types. I'll put a link in the description below. So you don't have to worry about this too much, but I just want to review the differences between the 2 tests. The iBT had something called just purpose, which is like, why does the student go to see the professor? You don't have to worry about that anymore. It's not here. But they do ask you just content, which is basically the main idea. What's this about? And they do ask you detail questions, which is pretty much like factual information questions. They just ask you about something from the passage. It's very simple. For example, here, when you are listening to the iBT, you have to take a lot of notes. Here, for the Essentials test, you have to answer a kind of detail. For example, what does the professor say about shrimp? And hopefully you remembered something that she said about shrimp. What should the man bring to the party? This is a conversation that's pretty basic. And so it just asks you a detail. So it's just simple detail questions. So two other question types. Speaker's attitude, which is on the IBT, asking about the professor's opinion, is not here in the essentials. And understanding the function, what does the professor mean when he says this, or why does the speaker say this, that does come up. So that's kind of like making an inference, guessing why a speaker said something. So, for example, why does the professor talk about shrimp? Right here in the essentials test, it's pretty similar to something that they would ask in the IBT. This can also come up in the conversations as well. When I say, so an inference, I have a whole video about inferences. There's a lot of different ways to make an inference. I won't talk about it here, but they do show up in the essentials test as well. So be aware of that. In the IBT, it'll be in a lecture, you have to listen. And then here's an example of a question from the essentials. Something like, what will the speaker probably discuss next? So they don't say it directly. You have to figure out what you think is the best answer. That's an inference. And that's still on the essentials test. And it also comes up in conversations. What does a man imply when he says, I'll stop by when I finish work? So it's pretty simple, but you have to guess what this means. Okay? You have to guess what the inference is. Two questions that do not show up on the essentials test is organization and connecting content. These are only on the IBT. So the last question type, question reply, is on the TOEFL listening essentials, but not the IBT, which is pretty simple. It's the one that we talked about already. They ask a simple question, like for example, don't you want to hear that song again? And then you have to answer it with the best one. Really easy, really simple. So which test should you take? If you have a choice between the essentials and the IBT, I would recommend the essentials because it's easier. If you want to challenge yourself, take the IBT. But the essentials test is easier, and the big reason is because the passages are much shorter in the essentials test, and that makes this easier than the IBT. Oh, and one more thing, it's very important. Please hit subscribe, like, wherever it is, somewhere down here. Touch it, hit it, smash it. Some people say you don't really have to smash it. You can just kind of just a little touch. It really helped me out a lot. All right, hope that was helpful. And next week I'll give you the same for the reading section, IBT versus essentials. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.